Hi, if you're a woman in cybersecurity, you're probably wondering, what can I do differently? Or is it different for me to look for a job or get into transition into cybersecurity if I am a woman? So this is the episode for you. I have Alannah, who runs a cybersecurity conference providing free training for cybersecurity for women. We go into why it's important for women to have training and get some special attention, unlike men, because there's plenty of men in cybersecurity. I hope you like the episode, and I hope you get value out of it. She runs the conference, which is completely free for attendees. Would definitely encourage you to, and it's a women-only conference, so I would definitely encourage you to check her conference out. If you do like this episode and if you got value out of it, do connect with Alannah. And I hope you get something valuable from some of the other episodes of the Cloud Security Podcast. But if you want to reach out, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, or you can reach out to us on the Cloud Security Podcast, and we'll be happy to guide you with any more information you need. So, without further ado, you have Alannah to talk about her path into cybersecurity and what you can learn from this. Tips from Alannah on cybersecurity for women. See you there.
Who am I? I really like food. I think that can basically encompass 50% of me. My path into cybersecurity, I did a Bachelor of Software Network Engineering. In about my third year, I think, I decided to explore more about what options I had after my degree, I suppose. So I had a look around, and I went to a bunch of local computer-related meetups. So I went to a Scala meetup, or functional programming meetup, some software dev meetups, web application meetups, and I got to a security meetup. It was originally called Ruxmon, but now it's called Seasides by Carly and Sylvia, who are the same people that run B-Sides Canberra, which is the biggest cybersecurity conference in Australia and New Zealand. They call it a hackathon. It's it's technically focused, but it's really great. So you should go to it. But anyways, so I went there, and the first talk they had there was by OJ, who is a very well-known I guess he does a bit of everything, like research and pen testing and all that, red teaming and stuff. And he was doing a talk on Metasploit, which is a very popular tool for new starters to use before you get into a lot of the manual stuff. And I thought that was so cool. And I met a lot of the other people who introduced me to CTFs, and I was a big gamer at the time. And CTFs they're called it's called Capture the Flags, and basically it's just a whole bunch of like hacking challenges, and the more you solve, the more points you get, and you compete against other teams and the like. And I thought that was just so much fun. I like competition. And so that's kind of also, and a lot of people who do pen testing also like CTFs, and that's how I met those people, and I decided that pen testing was going to be my job. But how I got my job was, so my degree had I did an honors, and I needed an internship as part of that. And the company that took me on, I originally asked for pen testing, but they gave me a security dev role. So they could also give me a research project, which could also double as my research project for my honors, which was really nice of them. And then they offered me pen testing after my internship. So yeah, that's my way into pen testing.
Quite a short path into cybersecurity.
Yeah, I was really lucky. I don't want to make it sound so easy, because I had a friend who had been a dev for, I think, 10 years or so, really competent guy, and he got his OSCP. He studied, so for anyone who doesn't know, OSCP is like your benchmark certificate, like the cert that everyone recognizes and respects in pen testing. He got that in his own time. It's quite hard for anyone who's starting out. And then it took him about 6 months to a year to actually find a job in pen testing.
Wow.
So I was really lucky. There are internships and graduate positions in pen testing, but it's sort of a right place, right time kind of thing.
Yeah. But to your point, it's interesting, right? I think how you mentioned about the fact that you feel lucky that you had an interesting, I guess, a quicker path compared to some of the other people. And for people who are hearing about offensive security, that is a badass course. Try harder. Oh my God, #try harder is like It's so has a very different
They're,
meaning to life after that.
they're pretty rough.
Yeah.
But I think it's good because they develop it, I guess the point of OSCP is to develop your problem solving skills and your way of thinking more than anything. Like once you learn all the skills you need to do the OSCP, it's like you look back on it and you realize, oh, that wasn't so complicated. But it's about like going through that process and understanding like going through that process and learning how to break things and like finding ways and also developing that patience of like
Yep.
looking through everything like to find that one thing that will get you like Prevesc or something like that. So yeah.
Yep, 100%. And I think because the audience that I have is focused on the cloud space as well, so they've either heard of public cloud or work in the cloud space. And as a pen tester yourself, do you come across public cloud quite often, and in what context?
I come across like a lot of like frameworks, I guess. Like we test web apps with like Azure and stuff like that. So having a cloud background is definitely helpful. Like any other background in computing to get into pen testing because you need to understand something to be able to break it, I guess. So
talking about getting into pen testing, how for people who are listening, obviously I've got a mixed crowd of there are people who are students or people who are transitioning into cybersecurity. So keen to know what you recommend for people who, I guess, are seeking a role in pen testing. How can they approach it?
Right. Yeah, pen testing is really fun. Get in on it. But so I guess there's two different ways you can do it. Like if you are a student or someone that's fairly new to IT and I guess security and computing, that kind of thing, you can kind of pick it up in your own time and just like to do what I do. I played CTFs. There's also heaps of online resources like over the wire. So Natus and Leviathan are their most basic I guess labs, and they're really good. There's also like Pico CTF, which runs every year, and they have like really basic what's called challenges to really fairly advanced ones, and you can just work your way through it. And people often do write-ups of them, so if you get stuck on something, you can go Google a write-up and see how you could have gone, among other things like studying your own time. And then I guess you get an internship and graduate position, and that's cool. But I guess for anyone in that position, I would recommend that you understand that you'll probably spend all of your free time in the next year learning about everything, because I guess pen test, like I did a similar thing, because pen testing is like, you don't need a deep knowledge of everything, but you do need a knowledge of a lot of things to like, so you can break them, because if you don't understand, I guess, how they work, you can't. But another path that is very popular, and a lot of my colleagues have taken, is that they go into like software development or like I guess cloud security or network security, sysadmin, all those jobs, and they get a deep understanding of those roles, and then they can bring that information into security because they've already worked on things like that, and they've already configured, made configurations and stuff, and seen what works and what doesn't. They can also come back, take that knowledge and go break it, I guess. And then I guess you could start out, if you're a network engineer, you could start out with like infrastructure network pen testing, and while you build knowledge on web apps and stuff like that. So yeah, that's another way to get into pen testing, I suppose.
Yes, and to your point, it seems to be quite a few various ways, but do you find, and it's one of those things, right? Hanging out with people, is there a certain personality type, I guess, you kind of have to be, or not personality types, maybe more of a fan group, let's just say, because there's a common misunderstanding that you kind of have to be in love with Mr. Robot or be a Star Wars fan or gaming fan to be a pen tester. Is that true?
I think like pen testers are like any other humans. We also have other interests. I'm a big gaming fan, but I haven't watched the first 6 movies of Star Wars. Don't hate me.
You haven't.
No, they were made before or like around the time I was born. Like,
yeah, I haven't watched all of them either. So I mean, I'm like totally not gelling in with any of the cybersecurity people. Clearly, and here I am on social media, so I'm totally not gelling with anyone in cybersecurity, I guess.
No, it's just there's so many people. Like there's so many different types of people. Like in any other part of society, like all people are welcome
Wait,
and
so
all
they're
interests are
normal people?
welcome.
Is that what they are? They're normal people. They don't have. I don't have to have this special interest in most Mr. Robot for because clearly I get messages on LinkedIn, people saying, "Oh, do I need to be a gamer to be hanging out with these?" Because to your point about, I guess network is an important part as well when you're trying to become I guess get into any field. You know, not really pen testing, but I
Yeah.
guess part of the thing. So I get messages on LinkedIn. Some people like, oh, I'm into this game, and I'm like, I don't care. I haven't heard of that game before, but I don't know what is that the relationship you're trying to build with this, and then I get you a job or something, or anyway, it's that's why I find that really fascinating. Although there is I guess, bit of a different side to this as well, because I've had a few female guests before, and they've kind of mentioned that it is important to be technical to get respect from your male colleagues. And obviously, the female guests that I've had in the past, most of them have been from overseas, like United States and stuff. So curious to know your experience in Australia, if that has been different about this, or what are your thoughts on this?
Right. I think let me see how I can word this. I think like in any job to get respect from your peers, you need to be competent at your job. And if you're in the technical side of security, then I guess you do need to be technical because that makes you competent for your job. But I think part of security, there's kind of this culture. I mean, it's not very prevalent in Australia. Australian cybersecurity culture is actually really good, but there's a little bit of a like elite or like super technical or GTFO kind of thing. And I guess we're almost a little bit elite. Some people, few people, are elitist about I guess if you're non-technical, then you're not worth talking to and you're not worth acknowledging, and that kind of thing. And I think that's really unhealthy. And I think that like jobs are there for a reason, right? There are people who do policy, and that is there for a reason. And there are people who do like admin stuff or accounting or like customer facing,
Cybersecurity
like
awareness.
yeah, that kind of thing. And those are all important, right? And I
Yeah,
think while you, yes, you do need to be technical to be respected if you're in a technical role. I think as a woman, or just as anyone in security, I think there needs to be a slight change of attitude towards, I guess, understanding what people's jobs are and respecting that they have different jobs. Rather than just because like people always talk about in like business cases. Sorry, I know I'm going a little bit off topic
that's all
here,
right. No,
but
no, that's all right. Yeah.
people always talk about like I've talked to a lot of managers and stuff or like directors, and they always go on about like how technical people always want like the best, most perfect solution.
Oh, I think you went on mute. There you go. You're back. Yes. No, you lost you again. It came back and went again. No, I can't. Don't worry. Maybe unplug your mic and plug it in again just to see how it goes. We should be praying harder demo guards.
Can you?
Yeah, you came up
And then
and
I.
say something again. Yeah, you can. You're there.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. No, I was just saying we should probably pray harder demo guards because
Yeah,
clearly
I know, right?
my sunlight and your mic are all acting up. But you were saying, so you speak to a lot of managers who talk about, I
Yeah,
guess,
like
the technical folks.
yeah, like so I mean, we always like we find our art beautiful, right? We find the perfect solution beautiful. But like I guess managers sometimes have complained that, there are other constraints like budgets or like customer requirements or other things. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is like everyone's, right, and everyone has their perspective, and I guess the concept that you need to be technical to be respected isn't great because that dismisses a lot of other roles in security that have a place in security. Anyways, that's just my answer. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I think it's definitely it's actually a good and related tangent as well, because your point about and that kind of was the origin of that gaming question as well, because you almost to forget that there's another layer of society around you as well, right? Where it's great to be, I guess, into a particular application or something, but if it doesn't bring value to someone else, like for example, it would not bring value for someone if I'm not a Star Wars fan. I'm trying to I'm trying to pretend to be a Star Wars person, I guess. Just say it that way.
Yeah.
There's no point. I'm like, it comes across quite fake as well. You probably end up breaking a relationship instead of making one. So you're better off just saying, yep, this is how it works. This is what I am. But to what you said earlier, do you feel it's different being I know you had an interesting journey yourself into pen testing, but through the work that you do for the community, do you find that, like, what are the common questions you get asked from people, or is there a difference in being a female and approaching pen testing?
The only difference I can think of with pen testing where women might have a benefit, I won't talk about the ethics of that, but would be social engineering and red teaming. That is definitely advantage. It's, I don't know, society has biases, right? And also, men can't pretend to be pregnant. I think I heard Jack Hyde, if anyone doesn't know, she's a very well-known red teamer. She did a talk once where she talked about how she pretends to be pregnant, and she, like, walked around and she had an RFID copy in her purse or her bag, and she kind of plopped down, sat next to this woman who was on her smoke break, and had the bag was right next to her RFID card, or the employer's, and she was just complaining about how she needs a seat and how sore her legs were, and then, like, during that time they managed to clone the RFID, and then she walked away and she got into the building, whereas a man, I guess, approaching a woman just sitting right down next to her and starting conversation is not, like, it's just examples like that, I suppose. But pen testing, I think, benefits, like, in general, from all kinds of views, right? Because it takes all kinds of people to make applications and networks and that kind of stuff. There's, like, all sorts of people who like all sorts of trains of thoughts, I guess, in those fields. So we also need all kinds of trains of thoughts in pen testing to be able to understand those people and break those applications or networks or systems or whatever you're testing, I suppose.
Interesting. Yeah, I just realized. I just imagine a scenario where a guy just walks up and sits next to another guy. That guy would totally be weirded. I was like, "What the hell are you doing? Just like step away from me, man." whereas to your point about the society bias, if a woman comes and sits next to another woman, it's a safety thing. Like it's like, oh, you're part of my group. Whereas if you do that with another strange man, you're like, dude, just maintain distance, man. What are you doing? Like, this is my zone. You're in my zone right now. Just like, okay. So that's a good point. And I didn't realize there was a bit of a bias, and probably and to your point, it does take a certain kind of person to do this as well. Is there, I guess, in terms of, because I was saying networking is earlier, which is like an important thing as well. Do you find, if people are like students and stuff, like anyone who's trying to transition to cybersecurity or as a student, is networking important for them? Like, are there like communities or things that they can be a part of that? And I guess to your point, maybe even before we go into this, should they pick a specialty and then like network in there, or how would that work?
Well, pen testing is, I guess, a specialty. So we'll just talk about it in the context of pen testing, because I think it works the same for everything. Oh, yeah. And personally, I think networking is a dirty word. I think making friends is a better way of seeing it. But like, okay. So, sorry. What was that question? Right. It was
networking. Then I think, is there communities that people should be part of? And like, what's, to your point, networking is a dirty word, but do you feel, first, is it important? And if are there communities or stuff that you recommend that people should be part of to make friends?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also, I think you mentioned something about students, which I will cover later. In regards to, I guess, meetups and groups and places you can meet people. If you want to learn technical things, Sec Talks is really good. It's run by Pedram in Sydney, but it's all across Australia, in New Zealand, and like around the world. I think there's a few in Europe as well. And they're just technical meetups. Like the Canberra, every city is a little bit different, but they follow the same train of thought, where you kind of you have a community member every month come in and give a technical talk on a technique or a vulnerability or something they've discovered recently or found interesting. And in Canberra, at least, you bring your laptop and you can practice whatever they've just taught and get hands-on experience. If you have any issues, you can also ask them. And people kind of just take turns learning. They get from I think Canberra's around 30 to like really big. I think Melbourne, every month they fill up and there's like a waiting list. It's insane. Getting into like Melbourne's Sec Talks is hard as. I think Sydney is similar as well, but that's really good. If you're in Canberra, Seasides is really good. They're run by Carlene Silvio, and you get about 2 talks every month. And they just bring in people with like from different technical areas in security, and you get to learn about 2 technical areas a month, and then go out for drinks. And then Hacks is really good. So Pam O'Shea, who has a PhD, she is super awesome. I love her.
Dr. Pam.
Yeah, and she has she also runs her own consultancy. If you're a woman, she runs a workshop for women on pentesting and security, and she often brings in guest speakers like I think Kim for binary exploitation and similar stuff like that. There's lots of stuff like that running around, but also the conferences are really good. Like Australia has quite a few conferences. Besides Canberra is definitely the biggest, but and also KawaiiCon is quite big. AppSec is quite big, but also the local community conferences are really good as well, like QuackyCon and stuff. They bring people from all around Australia, but it's a bit smaller, so you get to meet a lot more people and make closer bonds. But they're all really good because a lot of them have at least student tickets, if not travel grants. So I helped run the Hacker Chicks. Hacker Chicks is a group run by Kylie as well. I helped run that travel grant for B-Sides. So we paid for accommodation and flights for a bunch of women to come to the conference, either students or people returning to work and things like that. Unfortunately, COVID stopped that from actually happening.
Oh, right. I was going to say, wow, it's
yeah, but it's definitely happening again. Oh, sorry.
No, you continue. I didn't want to interrupt you. I was like, that sounds like an interesting offer for anyone listening in, but with COVID, I think this makes it really interesting. Although you're in Australia, you can drive around, I guess. Borders will soon open up.
You're in Australia.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, in Australia, you should be able to drive to New South Wales or Victoria.
Yeah, but like people coming from Perth, we also flew in people from New Zealand as well. So New Zealand, Australia, we kind of like in security, we kind of just grouped together. Also KawaiiCon, they last year they had a bunch of training, and security training gets quite expensive, like in the thousands, and they kept like several seats free for students, or like people who couldn't afford to, but like, wanted to, and they offered like a whole bunch of people free tickets to like really expensive training, which was really awesome. Yeah, I guess in general, there's everywhere. Conferences are the biggest place. And if you're into pen testing, I definitely recommend just taking a laptop to a conference, sitting down and working on the challenges. And if you have issues or if you can't work out something, go talk to other people. And they, like almost everyone I've talked to when I was starting out helped me out and was really kind about it. And you also get to make friends and meet people that way. I think that's about it.
To your point about making friends, is it important to make friends in pen testing through conferences? I'm not going to use the word networking, so like I'm just going to use the word friends.
Well, I guess depends what your goal is, but I mean, I guess friends are always good, right? But
I love how you answered it. Yes, your friends are always good, but then you kind of have to go seek out these pen tester friends, though, right? So to your point about, I'm trying to reframe this in networking.
It's not just. I don't think it's just pen testing friends you want. You want like people from everywhere in security, because we often end up in like group chats where we just put in like, oh, there's this new development in like, I don't know, network engineering, and then there's like a new vulnerability someone found here, or like whatever else, right? And like people talk about their research and stuff like that. Yeah, like you as a pen tester, you want to know about everything, right? Because you will probably eventually test a bit of everything.
Yeah.
But it's also just fun to know. If you're technical minded, you just want to learn everything, right? I guess.
Yeah, probably
Um,
that's probably the curse of being a technical minded person. You want to know everything as well, and you want
yeah.
sometimes want to get into the details of things as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you don't get sleep. But to answer your
Yeah.
question about networking, it unfortunately a lot of places hire by word of mouth. I mean, like, because people like security has a very, I'm sure a lot of tech places have this now, but security is very focused on culture as well. Like the whole no dickhead
Yeah,
policy. So
of
like
course. Yeah.
if you have someone that can like recommend you when you put your resume forward as like, you know, he's a solid guy, he's not a douchebag,
Yep.
then you are more likely to get the job, I guess.
So start making friends as you start doing offensive security courses, and as you
Mm,
go through them, find graduate roles. Probably is a good summary for I guess because they are junior roles as well. They don't come that often, but if you're to your point, if you do hang out at meetups or conferences and meet people,
yeah,
to your point, or make friends, I guess, you can always let them know that you are looking for an opportunity and what can you. And I think, I mean, that's how I came across my first role, but because
yeah,
it was really interesting for me to kind of tell people to do this, but I always find it difficult to show the value of it because it did take me 6 months before I
yeah,
got the job. It wasn't like I went in day one, met a guy, and day two I got the job. And no, it didn't. It took a while,
yeah,
but it I had to kind of prove myself and as being consistent and being really interested in cybersecurity. I wanted to grow something in this space, and that's kind of where I guess the whole thing started. Obviously, it's evolved since then, and now I've got much bigger goals with cybersecurity, and that which is a good segue into my next question about 0xCC. Oh,
Oh,
sorry, go
can
on.
I just add one more thing to the end of that?
Yes.
With the graduate programs and the internships, there are a few of those going around that I definitely recommend you applying to, but also just apply to places. With my current role, I work for TSS, who got bought out by CyberCX, and we're currently in the process of integrating into them. But when I applied, they didn't advertise anything. I wrote a letter to the CEO and or the director, and I was like, "Hey, I'm really interested in pen testing. I've done all these CTS. I came second in this, and you know, I do XYZ. And I'd really like an internship to learn, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, he gave me a job. He didn't even bother testing my qualifications, which I was
Wait.
really, I was like, wait, what? But apparently, a few of the guys had seen me around playing the CTFs as well, so they vouched for
All
me.
right.
But I only found that out like a year later. But yeah, so like, don't be afraid to just ask. Like, I mean, you will get shot down, but like, you might find an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So
But I guess
yeah,
nowadays you have LinkedIn as well, so you can, to your point, you can reach out to people on LinkedIn and get to, I guess, let them know that you are in the you're looking for a role, or this is what you're.
yeah.
And by the way, ballsy move, and congrats on making that ballsy move to the
Thank
CEO.
you.
It's
Well,
like kudos to you for that.
I met some of the people from the TSS, and like they were just so passionate about I guess yeah, they was just so passionate about CTS and just doing well in CTS. I was just like, oh my god, that's dedication. But I think another thing I just wanted to add, one more thing before we go into the next topic, to all the students, because I guess this question's targeted to them. You don't need technical skills as a student. You like, I mean, everyone starts somewhere. No one expects you to be perfect, but you do, because pen testing is something, a job that you constantly need to be learning. You should aim to show like your initiative. So show that you've done all these challenges and you have write-ups, or you've competed in these CTFs, or you know, that kind of thing. You go to conferences, etc., etc., right? To, I guess, demonstrate you're keen and willing to learn. Yeah, that's
And I think it's an important point. It's funny um, how many people don't talk about it enough as well, the consistent learning piece. And I think it's probably difficult, like when you're in uni, all you're doing is trying to learn around you, and you're like, oh my god, I still continue to learn after uni. It's like, what is this? So I
Gotta make a hobby of
unfortunately,
it.
yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the reality is, I feel like everyone's a constant learner, no matter what field you pick. After uni, you're still learning. You're still
Yeah.
learning every day. It just doesn't stop. And I think it's not a bad thing. I make it sound as if it's bad, but it's actually not a bad thing. To our point earlier about if you're technical and you want to know the details of everything, it's probably a good and a bad thing, but it actually helps you make better decisions for the company and give them right advice to people as well. So it's always beneficial and it would always help you progress further. So I don't think education ever stops, but I guess it's just about being in that mindset. Like when you're in uni, all you're like doing is studying and like, oh my God, I just have to keep studying every day. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those ones. And I've had a few conversations with a couple of guys from uni and they're all like, what, I have to still continue studying? I thought once you finish uni, I start getting paid and that's it. Like I've learned everything in my life. At least that's what my parents said, but clearly it's not true.
Yeah, but I think the difference is that in uni you're studying and you don't always know how where you're going to apply that. They kind of just do arbitrary things, and you're just like, do this, do that, and just whatever,
Oh,
right? But at work, you're learning as you go, and you can actually see in real time the application of what you've learned and the like. And I think that's really rewarding, and it makes the learning actually fun. So
yep, yep. And that's a good
it's not
point
all
because
that bad, uni students.
but I think something for uni students I did want to add, and I think I look for this in people I interview, and I don't know if you come across this as well. Like, if you already done some work, to your point, either participate in CTF or have some kind of a tool, like a security tool that you've created, or which is a GitHub repo somewhere, like those are all like massive plus points. You may not have attended any conferences, but you have like a portfolio for yourself for stuff that you've been learning or even blogging about. People do look out for those things these days. It's not that, oh, it's only just Mr. X is saying I'm an amazing guy, but also the fact that you've proven over time that you've learned so much. I don't know if you feel that's an advantage, but I kind of look for those things as well.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's a showing initiative and a willingness and a keenness to learn in pen testing and I guess security in general, any job,
Yeah.
is really important, I think.
Yep, perfect. All right, the good time to move on to our bigger things in life, 0xCC. What is it? And I'm not going to screw it the second time round, so I'm going to let you introduce it. So, what is it and why should people know about it?
0xCC is a free training or free to attendees, not to the sponsors.
Yes, I didn't screw it. She screwed it.
That's fine. Well, yeah, but I don't know. I just thought that was funny. But free training conference for women in or interested in cybersecurity. The name 0xCC is, I know it's a mouthful. People keep telling me to change the conference name, but it's an opcode for Int3, and it's used for debugging. And I learned it when I was first learning how to do buffer overflows. And it was just life changing because it's like a single byte, whereas like most opcodes are 2 bytes. So yeah, anyways, it was just great, and I guess I hoped 0xCC would be like that as well, just like, technically focused, no BS, and useful to the attendees. And yeah, I guess what I had a spiel.
By the way, is it a free? Is it a free
Yeah,
conference
it's
or?
completely free. So like we get the money from sponsors, but it's completely free to the attendees, and we also provide travel grants as well. So last year we flew 6 students or women are looking to get into security or just unable to attend due to their means and stuff. And yeah, across Australia. This year, obviously, we couldn't because of COVID, and we ran online. And next year, we'll be offering travel grants again. I think it's important to make it as accessible as possible because, I think if you ask most women in security, they say you'd be lucky to have more than you'd be lucky to have another woman on your team. I haven't, and I think like anyone, you're more likely to stick to your own group of friends and people than to venture out and join other groups at events, and so it becomes harder to meet women. I guess other women, and I think it's really like a lot of women say, or a lot of people say, it's hard to be what you can't see, and I think it's really important for people to see that there are like really awesome women who are really technical, and also like women that they can meet that will like they can grow together on their journey through cybersecurity and learn more. Because so talking about that bias earlier with like social
Female.
bias, yeah,
Yes.
I think there is like some people feel this need to compare women for some reason. I mean, like people to have a tendency to lump minorities together, and where one person does something, like other people are like, you know, they get compared, and I think that creates an unhealthy balance. And it also means that the women who are seen are generally the very successful ones and who do well. But like anyone, like you or me, we all started somewhere, right? And I think it's important to see that there are, you know, women in all stages of their career, and also that like there are women in all niches of their career, not just pen testing, but binary exploitation, research, cloud security, whatever else. And I think, yeah, I guess I just want to encourage them to keep going in their technical roles if they want to, I guess. And I think it's also a great way to bond and make friends. And by friends, I mean actual friends on networking, because like the training is hard and very technical. And what better way is there to make friends than to like get annoyed over a really hard lab that your trainer just gave you?
Of course. Is it only pen testing
Yeah.
training though, or what kind of training can they expect from the conference, and how often is it held?
No, it's not pen testing focused at all. It's just technical security. Because I think like pen testing and security all bleeds into each other. Like they all take parts and need parts from each other or bits of knowledge. So last year we did have a pen testing course that was actually run by Pam O'Shea. She was very
Nice.
good.
Shout out to Pam.
Yeah. But this year we had binary exploitation, exploiting network protocols and devices by Kylie McDevitt. She's a very good network engineer. And we had like cloud network security by Franca Moretto. I think you might know her. She's in Melbourne.
Yes.
Cloud-based, anyways.
I'll follow her on Twitter. I need to bring her on the show as well one day, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Maybe you can introduce me
lovely.
to her.
Yeah. Malware analysis and reverse engineering, and security for software developers. Wait, have I reached 5? Crap, I think I have. But yeah, basically it's I guess it's just to encourage, because like you want a broader perspective, right? So earlier I was talking about how like some technical people might dismiss managers and slightly less technical people, policymakers, or that kind of thing. And I think that's wrong. You need to understand all aspects of security to have a holistic like approach to security, right? And so it's just there to build people's technical skills. And yeah, eventually I do want to bring in hardware security, and also for next year I'm thinking of bringing in smaller network workshops. So like, because technical security, we don't get to build our soft skills as much. So I want to bring in like speaking workshops and I guess physical security workshops, just like with low bars, but it gets people thinking. And then if people want to go give talks, it helps more. If people want to approach management positions, it might help with that as well. And kind of small things like that.
What motivated you to start this? I mean, I get I'm just curious, what motivated you to start this? I mean, if it's a long answer, maybe we just put for another time, but I'm just curious, like, because you've been running it for 2 years now, so this was your second year?
Yes.
And like, is there something that motivated you to start it?
The short answer is I don't want anyone to be treated the way I was treated, and I don't want anyone to feel the way I felt. There is a much longer answer, but I think it can be definitely summed down to that.
I'll let people. I would leave that for people to reach out to you and hear straight from you. I did want to ask as well: is it only for women, and is it only for women trainers as well?
Yes. So the model currently is anyone who identifies partially or wholly as women. Our bathrooms for 2019 were all unisex, like, you know, people identify as how they identify. That's and all our trainers are women as well. And anyone who helps the conference, all our speakers, or and our panelists last year, they were all women. Just because like there are enough men trainers and
Yeah,
speakers and
they're
everything
plenty
else,
of
and they're
men.
already well promoted. And I want to promote women, and I want other women to see women, do the same thing, right? Because there are enough. It's just some people might be shy, or you need to go find some people to like dig them out and be like, hey, come on, talk. I had to do a bit of begging with the speakers,
Yeah, I
among
can
other things.
totally relate to
Yeah,
that.
so I
It's very
guess
hard
that's
to
why.
find women speakers. But to your point, I think something else that I wanted to bring up about the conference is when it was going, I think it was last weekend, and as it was floating around, LinkedIn and Twitter was lit with all the merchandise.
Ah.
Can you talk a bit about the merchandise?
Ah, you get me excited. So I like learned how to run conferences from designing the OzSecCon merchandise. Do you know OzSecCon?
Yes,
The
I have.
physical security. Yes, it's
Yes.
anyways. And so our main merchandise, our conference badge, is a 90 by 90 centimeter silk scarf. And I chose that size because it's like, if you boil it down, it's just a square piece of fabric, right?
Right.
But like, people have decided that this square piece of fabric is a scarf and it should only be worn as a necktie. But you can wear it as so much more, and especially at that size, I designed it so it was big enough to be worn as a hijab. It can also be worn as a top. I wore my scarf last year as a top. You can wear it as a hair tie, an accessory as a bag, and I guess it just, like, because there is this somewhat bias. Like, if you talk to women who go to conferences, they'll be like, people just assume, go up to them and assume they're like a recruiter, or they're not technical and they're there with their partner or whatever. And I just want that to represent XCC as, like, we're versatile and we can do all this stuff. Don't freaking pigeonhole us as just non-technical or whatever stereotype you came up with. Actually, let me show you. Sorry.
Oh,
I
you
have
have
this.
it as well. Awesome.
Yeah,
You have it.
I just remembered.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. So this was this year's stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bit like cyberpunk, so I try and not make it girly. I just make it like a little bit tech, and then it has all the speakers and training and trainers on the scarf
Wow.
as
You know,
well.
you can be selling that to what's the brand? Versace, right? That's like a Versace scarf.
Thank you. They're actually free. So I give them to
Damn
everyone.
it. I feel like I should have just been part of this conference as well. Because so, by the way, to your point about the stereotype, because I do a lot of men's fashion work myself as well, and do stand out because I think there is to your point about the stereotype for women being considered as recruiters, or I guess, or if with being with their partners in the conference, there's a bias in men as well. The funny bias, because I usually wear suits at meetups, and it's just because I just love wearing suits, and that for me it's
Yeah.
men's fashion thing, and I do wear other things as well. But every time I've gone to a meetup in a suit, they just assume either I'm a recruiter or I'm a sales guy trying to find. I'm like, but I'm a technical cybersecurity person, but I kind of have to like prove it every time. Just almost have to go through this
Yeah.
filter, because all the people who are who would automatically walk away, they're like, oh, there's another recruiter over here. I'm gonna get spammed by him. I'm like, dude, that's why I feel like it's really interesting that you pointed out that bias, and I'm glad that you're trying to break the bias that exists for it. And one more thing on this, especially because we're talking about women in pen testing. Is
Yeah.
there any value? And I think mentorship is something that I've seen a lot on Twitter for cybersecurity students and women as well. Is there an element of that in this, or I guess cybersecurity groups for women, like they should be seeking mentorship? Is there any thoughts on that from you?
Oh yeah,
Like, is there different kind of mentorship? I guess there should be, because your point about zero SCC being focused on bring up that image for, or there's a lot more of, I guess, women than just what you might see in your office, which is one or two people. There's a lot more technical people. You get to hang out with them, get to know more of them. Do you have any thoughts of mentorship from a woman to another woman? Does that make sense? I think it's more like,
oh yeah, absolutely. I get it.
yeah.
There are lots of groups. If there are any women in the chat that are looking to join security or just interested, Hacker Chicks is one run by Kylie. Hacks is the workshop one that Pam runs. AWSN is another really big one in Australia, and they have a more holistic group of people. Like they have everyone from policymakers and physical security to like technical women. So yeah, and So my company, CyberCX, is actually developing a Women in Cyber initiative, which includes like scholarships and grants and internships and among other things, which is really cool. But I think the importance of, I think everyone should get a helping hand when they start out, just to like how things work. And, you know, you always want to make things easier for the people coming up behind you, right? And not pull up the ladder, as people say. But I think, like, especially as a minority, like I'll speak for women because I am a woman and not anyone else, that like things can be hard. Like there's sexual harassment is definitely an issue. And also just like, I guess, how to deal with biases and like other situations that you might not quite understand, because sometimes people don't always mean to be sexist, right? Or like just treat you differently, but there might be like a social conditioning that does, and then like you might not understand why it's wrong, but you're like, that doesn't feel quite right. And if you talk to someone, then they might be able to help you understand why, because they've already experienced it, and then you can deal with that situation a lot better than if you dealt with it by yourself, I suppose, like I did. And I guess it also helps to, I don't know. Again, it goes back to the so you can't really. It's hard to be what you can't see. And if you have like someone to aspire to be, you can like work towards that, I guess, rather than being like, oh, there's no one like me around here. Will I succeed, kind of thing. And because like
so there are people to help out. Basically, there are people to help out. You just have to seek them out.
Yeah, but I know we're a bit short on time, but just one last thing regarding that was I guess a good example was when I first started my internship. So our cohort with everyone doing honors had to get an internship. There were only 2 people who ended up getting paid internships, and I was one of them. And I consistently got told that I only got paid because I was a woman. I was diversity hire, I guess, and that really broke down my confidence. And I guess
internship don't get paid. I thought you can't have unpaid internship in Australia.
Oh, there were a lot of unpaid internships.
What?
Yeah. You can't. Yeah, there's rules around it. Like if they get more benefit, then they have to pay you. But if you get more benefit, then they don't have to pay you. But like that's hard to measure. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Now and here I thought the world is fair.
It's not. But I guess the part of that mentorship, I think I would have really just liked a coffee with like a woman more established in the industry, like Kylie McDevitt. She writes really good blog posts, just articulating perfectly like issues. It's insane. You guys need to read it. But yeah, like it would have been really nice to like have had some guidance and encouragement then about like, you know, that's wrong, rather than finding like working it out in my head like 4 or 5 years later that like, you know, I'm worth my salt.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so I guess that's why I think mentorship is really important. That, and on top of like all the technical skills you get to learn off them, but that's a given with any mentorship.
Perfect. And I think that people should definitely reach out to you. Like any women listening in who would want to know a bit more about it, they can definitely reach out to you as well. I think it'll be definitely an interesting conversation based on your personal experience as well.